Evening Plexers. I'm going to try a little experiment to help out Colin in the Plex Media Server support group, who has come across a movie file that won't scan, and he's done the Plex dance and he's tried a bunch of different file names. So I've got a little 5-second dummy video file. I'm going to copy this and put it in my FileBot working folder, movie folder. So I'm going to take one of his file names and rename this, and I'm going to run my default FileBot expression on it to add the TMDB, and we're going to see if my Plex server scans it in. So let's go down and look at this. Let's edit it so everyone can see what I'm doing. I'm using this complex one to add the TMDB ID number to both the folder and file name. If this movie happened to be a special edition, this expression will pick that edition up automatically if it's the remastered or whatever director's cut. And then the expression adds media characteristics to the file name, and it also checks for embedded subtitles, and if it finds an embedded English subtitle, it will name it ENGSUB in brackets, and it also will handle external subtitles to apply the right language code. So it does a lot. So let's see what we end up with. Alright, so it's going to call it the parking lot movie with a TMDB ID of 56113 and create the folder structure. So that's all we need to know. It's just a test file. I'm going to cut it, and off screen I'm going to paste it into my movie library. And it just takes 2 seconds because it's a tiny file, and we will rescan. And it may flash by quickly because it's only a 5-second video. There it is, updating the metadata for the parking lot movie. And I assume this is the correct movie. Alright, so let's back up a little bit. Let me find it. And I'll copy it off the server. Okay, so it's simply like it appears in TMDB, and I'm sure this would have worked on my server if the IMDb number was also included. So I've got this number for the database number in both the folder name and the file name, just as Plex wants it. Now, Plex doesn't show us in its main movie naming document that we can use a period, but this is also acceptable if you go to their support document for movies for editions. If you wanted to have a 720 and a 1080p and a 4K version of the movie all in the same library, you could simply use a space dash space, and in that instructions it gives an example like this, and it also gives an example like that with just a period. But note, it does not replace a natural space with a period. That is totally incorrect and not anything that Plex ever shows you to do. So this is perfectly legal according to Plex, but in the majority of cases they give the dash dot, or the dash, I'm sorry, the space dash space separator in so many examples. So basically this is all it took, and we'll try to figure out why that worked that way. So I'm running the latest version of Plex. This is a Docker container installed, but it wouldn't have mattered if it was a package container on the Synology NAS. And if we go into the library settings, I'm using both Plex Movie and Plex Movie I'm using Plex Movie for the scanner and the agent, and there's been no changes to these default library settings, and there's been no changes to the agent settings besides setting up my minimum collection size to 2 movies. Everything is default with a normal Plex install. If you've had it installed for a long time and you've jiggered with the agent settings, we're going to look at those now. So for movies, personal media is this with local media assets checked below it. Plex Movie Legacy is local media assets checked on top. You can't uncheck the Plex Movie Legacy, and then these are unchecked below it. The movie database has local media assets on top checked. The movie database cannot be unchecked, and then fan art and Plex Movie Legacy are below unchecked. So those are the orders. This is just like anyone would get installing the latest version of Plex server fresh. This is what you'd see. So no changes here. And if Colin needs to make changes, he can change back to default by looking at these. So short and sweet, that movie does scan in properly if named with the TMDB database number. And what we can do one more test. I can scan again. I feel pretty confident I don't need to do the Plex dance, but I'll do half of it. I'll just empty the trash after the scan completes. And I'm going to rename this manually to its most basic form. Plexers, test 1, 2, 3. Oh, sorry, that's the dummy file I'm working with. I thought I was at the folder level. So that's basic. So let's empty the trash. And let's copy this back in its most basic form. And we'll scan again. And it finds it again with the most simplified file name and folder structure that would be Plex's minimum. So I'm betting that something is different with his library settings. And Colin, if I were you, I would create a brand new test Plex movie library and drop it in that, see if it scans properly. And then just pull up 2 different browser windows at app.plex.tv, and you can go through setting by setting with each of the windows from the settings of the original movie library and compare it with the settings of the new test library if you get this to scan in successfully there. Everybody else, thanks for watching.